Hello, everyone. Bill here from Humanlytics. I'm here with Asher Lipstiz from Storyblock, and we're doing our first interview for the Great Humanlytics Experiment. So one thing, the reason we started the Great Humanlytics Experiment is so that I can start from a beginner's mindset and be able to re-examine all different issues and all different areas of digital analytics and digital marketing from scratch with experts and very experienced people from the field. And Asher is one of those people that I discovered along the way. So we are both part of this fellowship called Venture for America. And about 2 weeks ago in graduation for the Venture for America Fellowship, we had a really good conversation about building digital funnels and using CRM to do that. And that's why I'm inviting him here today to share some insights with us based on his experiences in building digital funnel, because it's so important as part of the digital marketing strategy for your company, and digital marketing strategies are a theme for the month. So without further ado, welcome Asher.
Thanks.
And why don't you just start with a brief description of yourself to our audiences?
Sure. Again, my name's Asher Lipstiz. Bill and I were part of the same fellowship. I can see your Zesty packet back there.
It's just there on accident. We didn't.
Oh, it's all right. Some product.
It's not product placement at all, right? Yeah.
So I've worked in digital marketing for a few years. It's tough to qualify anything as an expert. I think, the more you read, the more conferences you go to, the more people you meet who qualify themselves as experts, and you realize, none of us are really experts. It's such a new and quickly changing field. I wouldn't say there's best practices, of course, but there's no one size fits all or anything close. And you can hear something that worked so well for somebody and that it's not applicable to you at all. Not even just because of your market or product or anything else, but, for so many structural reasons in business. But I'm happy to share anything I know and happy to talk a little bit more about this for sure.
All right, perfect. Thanks for being here. So let's just start with an overall question. What is a digital marketing funnel? Why is it important for a company to incorporate that into your digital marketing strategy? Because it feels like this is a cliche word that you hear from everyone, that you have to have one, but no one really understands what it means.
Yeah, that's funny. I never really think of it as a cliche word, but I think that's also because I build them a lot instead of
yeah.
But I do hear people talk about it quite a bit sometimes, maybe without the most background. So I mean, very simply, it's the first touch someone has with your company, which can even be before you own that interaction. So like it could be a conversation we have about Zesty right here, all the way to the time you purchase.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, there's some people would argue that it goes to engagement and delighting that customer over time, and then continued purchases. So I mean, it's really just every interaction you have with a company, and kind of plotting that out into again, call it the funnel, because it typically looks like up here,
right.
where everyone's interacting. You have a lot of conversations about Zesty, you see a lot of ads, maybe you go to the website blog very often, and over time, as you nurture and you qualify those contacts, and eventually come opportunities, and then you eventually come customers, it's much smaller. So the shape of that, is up to debate, and obviously company by company changes. However, I would say it works for the majority.
All right, I have a fun question for you. So is a funnel dead? Because you hear this a lot from the street,
Yeah.
And I even published an article about saying the funnel is dead, because there's this 2009 McKinsey article that talks about digital marketing funnel, or just funnel in general. The concept of funnel no longer suffices a modern customer experience, and it's much more iterative now than just a concept of funnel. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Is the funnel dead? I would say that you see people, I mean, things are changing very quickly, right? I mean, no one really knows how bots are going to interact, how change our interactions with companies in the next 5 years as AI improves. We'll be able to have more conversational marketing that sounds more organic and more natural. Will that totally change how a funnel looks like? Very well, it could be possible. Is it possible to qualify leads before they even come into your, like the very, very top of a funnel? Yes. Could that totally change how a funnel looks like? Absolutely. A funnel's a model is what I like to think about it. It's never going to work for every company. If you start looking at your leads, like, well, this person came in as an MQL and they just qualified right there. And this SQL, you know, they're never going to get qualified as an opportunity, and we're not creating deals that like you can't. It's not going to work for every contact. Maybe not even like 30% of a contact, and then it's just not a great model. Like every model, you know, the more vague it is, the more precise it is in some way. Maybe not precise, but the more applicable, I guess, to the problem. If you try to target a funnel very exactly and say like, all right, this is exactly how contacts are going to move through with every piece, it's not going to be accurate. You have to keep it kind of vague. So people like to use things like funnel or buyer's journey or like these vague kind of concepts which sound flowery and nice. And like they drive me crazy too, because
Yeah.
I want to know how these things are going to work. I don't want like this vague story of like how the buyer progresses through, but those are the only things that are really accurate because they're so vague.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing that I found about the funnel is I'm against it. I'm still against it, but it's just a term that's so ingrained in marketers' mind that it just doesn't make sense to go against it. It's like speaking against pizza, right? You can't speak against pizza. It's not something that you will get a very positive reaction from people when you're trying to live in this world.
That's a good. I like to think of a funnel like you ever learn like that BCE like marketing matrix?
Yeah.
You know, the one everyone learns where there's like
Yeah.
by two matrix, and then over here it's like you can do market penetration, or you're gonna do market entry, or you're gonna like these are your 4 options, and you're like this is ridiculous. This was made like 50 years ago or way before like anybody knew how marketing would look like today, but people still use that. It's like honestly still a pretty applicable model just because it's so vague. And I think the funnel's the exact same way. That's my point.
Yeah,
you know,
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like this vague thing that like it's not going to work might not work for your company, for every company, and you might have like you should have much more precise strategy than just saying where are contacts in the funnel. But I mean, if you're looking at it in aggregate with all these companies, then I think it starts to like very, very, very broad strokes make sense. But yeah, I totally agree. It's like I wouldn't say it was ever really alive in the first place with a funnel in the same kind of way we're talking. Like
that makes that's fair. That's fair. All right, let's go to the next question. So let's go into the funnel a little bit more and talk more about the funnel. So what are some key steps that you see in a typical digital marketing funnel? And I guess a follow-up question to that would just be, what are the important elements, tools, and platform I need to piece together for those different parts of the funnel?
Okay. So the key steps where a buyer progresses through the funnel, or that's a good question. You know, every company's so different again, but I think, you know, painting very broad strokes, you're going to have visitors convert to leads in almost every single company. You know, that's very basic first conversion. So that's at the very top, people coming to your site, and you're owning these first interactions. So instead of coming to like, you know, instead of having a conversation with somebody or seeing somebody on a podcast or maybe seeing an ad and not clicking on it, but influenced by it, you're starting to come to that website and engaging with that content that's owned by maybe Humanlytics or anybody else.
Right.
So I think that's like really the first step at the very top, and then converting on that content. And then there's always a nurturing process and a qualifying process. What that looks like, whether you're qualifying, you know, you hear things like product qualified leads and conversation qualified leads. And of course there's like sales and marketing qualified leads. You know, however you choose to qualify your leads, whether it's by persona or by attribution source or by channel, or hopefully using a lead scoring system, using all of these and building regressions. I mean, however you're doing it, you really need to make sure that there is some kind of nurturing qualifying process. And then I would say that's like the middle part. That's like a really broad stroke again. But hopefully that's works for like on a larger scale. And then at the very bottom, of course, is the close. And this is could be anywhere from an e-commerce shopping cart to years and years long sales cycles where you have to do a long ABM campaign across a organization. So I mean, I really think it's, when you really break it down, this is like, you know, HubSpot 101 is what they tell everyone, or, you know, I'm sure Salesforce and Part Out 101. It's like you really have to like start up here where you have all this information and condense it down, then nurturing qualifying process, and then finally the bottom. And honestly, I think the most exciting, I'm going to like go off on a tangent in a second, but I think the most exciting way I think about digital marketing is, somebody once said, like, when you think about it, inbound marketing is everything, which is like, you know, I hate being those people that like try to do some BS behavioral economics to like look at your life in terms of models. Like that freaks me out. Yeah. But I do think that inbound marketing is kind of relative. I mean, when you think about anything from buying ice cream to like going on a date with somebody. You know, when you go to ice cream, you're like, oh, I saw that ice cream place for a while. It looks pretty interesting. Heard someone talk about it. I really want ice cream right now. Oh, let's go check out this ice cream place. You're looking at it. You're like, all right, I'm going to buy ice cream. Like that's honestly a full funnel right there. You go on a date with somebody and you're like, that's just a qualifying process. I would love to see someone make a horrifying like American Psycho version of like a study where they use a Tinder profile and turn it into a funnel. I mean, I think it'd be really effective. I think you'd be an awful person if you did it, but like it's the same idea really as inbound marketing. You're just putting content out there, people interacting with it, they're interacting with you, you're qualifying each other, and eventually there's a close and maybe you're going to date. But
if it's not for the moral grayness for the idea, I would totally try it out. But I don't think I'm the correct person to do that experiment. But
I mean, I think there are people that do it on. I think there are people that do this on dating apps without really knowing it, without calling it a funnel. I mean, there's these people that are just like swiping right on everyone and qualifying everyone, and then eventually you're going down. They're willing to go on dates with anyone, and that's just like, okay, let's just get everyone through the funnel and we'll get sales to qualify. That's the same.
You segment people based on their personas,
right? Yeah,
based on their Tinder profile, and you automatically classify, and then you have different messages for different people of different type. And then when,
all right, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Honestly, having seen a lot of personas at companies, I would say that like people are doing a better job qualifying on a lot of Tinder profiles than they are for company personas. I mean, like sometimes you're like, oh, this is selling Sally. This is our persona. Is she a selling Sally? Yep, she is. Like, that's not very useful. I mean, you can get a pretty good idea of who someone is from 6 pictures about them, I would say.
Right.
If you had 6 pictures about a customer, it'd be way easier to qualify them. I mean, so I think it's honestly in some ways a better funnel than a lot of inbound marketing funnels.
One thing that I hear about, this is actually from some Harvard Business Review article I wrote. The biggest problem, I read, not I wrote, I don't read. One thing about the segmentation or persona is that people build persona for people instead for need. What you really need to do is to understand the need of that persona instead of just build towards that persona.
Totally.
And I feel like that's something a lot of companies are missing when they're building persona. It's going completely off tangent.
I cannot agree more. I saw this great graphic about this. I talked with a product manager in a city or my city a few weeks ago about this, and he's like, I'm so tired of seeing these terrible personas people make, and they're like, what is the real need we're trying to solve for like selling Sally? Like, honestly, sometimes a tool is just a tool. A lot of software is just a tool, and we're like, here's the job. Like, here's the need we need to solve. It's a job to be done, like anything else, like the jobs to be done model. It's like, this is our tool. We just got to insert it for the need. And I think, sometimes you do need a more persona-based approach, but I think people try to fit into that mold. I mean, I'm seeing companies with like 20 personas. Like, what's the point of that? You could just say like, we solve this need for everyone at that point.
Yeah.
If I can find this great graphic about this. Let's pull this up here. Okay, so I love this graphic. A product manager showed this to me a few weeks ago, and it's like, why did Peter buy the Snickers? Like, is he a 35-year-old marketing? And like, it's just products, and you're like, not every product needs personas. And I think, I think I really like this blog also, Intercom for Products. Been obsessed with it in the past few weeks. But I really do think that people it's like a model, right? It's like works in aggregate, but when you try to like fit yourself in there, it might not always work. And that's cool. Like not every revenue team and not every company needs to work in the same way. Like you might need to employ like tons of SDRs for every AE. Maybe you don't need SDRs at all. Maybe you just like, maybe you're like pure other channels and you just like want to, need a lot of BD. Whatever it is, it's like not every revenue team's the same. And I think trying to make yourself fit for somewhere you don't fit is, it just gets ridiculous, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like when these things, this is one thing I discover about business frameworks is when people use it a lot and pass it down a lot, they lose the original meaning of it. Like persona is a very good way of describing it, but people using it so mechanically now that you have to come up with the age. What is the point? Like the age is important for consumer product because people have different age, have different needs. But for some cases, you don't need the age because age is indifferent when marketing to this customer. It's really more about understanding your customer and their needs and wants instead of just building a persona out or like building as many as possible, because it's not a context of the best persona you can create. It's a context of how much money you can make from each of the customer groups that you're trying to engage, and that's what's really important. Yeah, so let's talk about CRM a little bit, because I know that's something you live and breathe. I just want to, can you just tell our audience or tell me a little bit more about what it is? We hear this term a lot, like ERP, CRM, they are just all being thrown out. We don't really know what it means. So what are they? When do I need it? What type of company would need a CRM in their workflow?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think you've seen the specialization of CRMs out there. There's so many kinds of CRMs out there. I mean, I can name a few I really like. Obviously there's no CRM that's perfect for every use case. Especially if you're in some smaller niche industries. I would say, I mean, HubSpot should pay me to say I spend so much time on their platform.
Yeah.
I love HubSpot, but that doesn't mean it's the only one. I think like Agile CRM for a lot of startups would be awesome. It's like, has a ton of great functionalities and excellent personalization. I'm a huge devotee. It's honestly, it's fairly popular. I want to say like probably fifth or sixth or something in the market. I don't know the exact number, but I see like a lot of people use it, but it doesn't get a lot of play for press. I don't know why. But I think it's a great CRM. Like, again, there's no perfect CRM, but everything is just about maintaining that relationship. And I would say there's a few ways to judge a CRM if you're looking to choose one. I think the ability to personalize in a natural way is important. I mean, a lot of people just choose features like, oh, this is shiny, let's do this, look at these features. But if you're, if whoever you're selling to isn't going to enjoy that level of personalization, then it's not worth it. Like, you just have to think, can this personalize in a really like thoughtful, organic way? And also, like, I think some higher analytics and segmentation is always necessary. There's always a ton of add-ons, but you don't want to be exporting data down to CSVs and doing that manually all the time. It's just not going to be worth it. So like, and also the third thing I would say is try to think what's in your ecosystem. You see a lot of companies that choose software, especially CRMs, way too narrowly within their departments. So they're like, oh, only our marketing team in this department's using HubSpot. These guys using Pardot, these guys using Marketo. Like, it's just, or maybe like only our marketing team is using HubSpot and they're using Salesforce, and they're like, I would say just pick an ecosystem and really run with it and make sure the integrations work across any other software you choose. Because otherwise you're going to be like building APIs, or worst case scenario, uploading, downloading CSVs. And that's just not going to be worth it. So like, if you have the opportunity and you can start from fresh and you don't already built up with all this like inertia of what software people like to use in your company and solutions, I would say like choose an ecosystem that you know has a lot of integrations, that you know is going to be easy to use for multiple teams, and it's not going to be too narrow. But I'm sure there's people who disagree with me and know way more about it than I do, who work at a lot of the CRMs. So maybe on future podcasts, they'll have better thoughts.
Yeah, that makes sense. One framework I heard about when trying to use CRM in your organization is to have a marketing-led strategy for your organization. So essentially, the CRM is not managed by the IT department, or it's not managed by a department per se, but instead it's shared across all departments, particularly led by marketing, to engage customers. But then insight you gather from CRM for marketing should also lead the decision for product development, R&D, HR, anything as such, based on what you get from the marketing data. So that's just a simple framework. I can share some articles on the Humanlytics page about this approach. It's another Harvard Business Review article. I read a lot of Harvard Business Review somehow. But yeah, that's just a good framework to think about it.
Like to see that. I definitely agree you need ownership of whatever software you use. If you're pushing it off to an IT department and enterprise, it's not going to, you're just not going to feel like it's not going to be the same. And again, HubSpot should please pay me to say this if they see it. But I love HubSpot, especially because their support is so excellent. I mean, it's really built in, so a marketing team can own it. And if there's an IT program, HubSpot can normally handle it on their end. It doesn't really require a lot of like access to internal servers that other software solutions might provide. Again, not for every use case, HubSpot, but it is like, they're really good if your marketing team wants to own it.
That makes sense. And HubSpot also has 90% off for startups, just in case if you don't realize that. But you need to go through application process. But we have it, and it's amazing. We just implemented it earlier this week.
Like,
it's really great.
I got back. I'm going to Inbound next week, but I also went to a conference for an agency that particularly just as a HubSpot partner. It's like their main partnership. And I've never seen so many HubSpot devotees in one place. I mean, these weren't just like the Inbound people. These were like, they live and breathe HubSpot every day. And like, I've never seen so much devotion to any brand, let alone a software. It's like absolute, like people were saying like, my business is saved. Like we kept our mortgage because of HubSpot. Like no, I'm serious. It is so much devotion to the brand. More than any other brand I've ever seen. It is truly incredible what they built. Not just as far as like, and as any marketing topic you Google, HubSpot comes up first. I mean, they just kind of like own all the marketing topics as far as SEO, but they also like having this incredible like devotion from their followers, which is pretty incredible. And it's an expensive product that doesn't work for everyone, but if you have the ability to use it, HubSpot, pay me, seriously, please pay me.
Yeah. I think that wraps it up for digital funnel and the discussion on CRM, how to choose CRM. Thank you so much, Asher, for being here today. To my understanding that we're coming back later to actually do a workshop on how to build marketing funnel with Humalytics, just to show you a real life example of how this is being done, and utilize some insight to make our marketing great as well. But with that, thank you so much for coming today. Please leave any comments underneath the video if you have any feedbacks, and looking forward to hearing from again, Asher.